This may sound really crazy, but I have this feeling, this is on the foundation that I believe racism and hatred is purely taught. And I think it's easy to teach somebody who's traumatized and their beliefs are rooted in fear to hold on to those kinds of beliefs than it is somebody who's raised out of love and allowed to like accept and appreciate differences in others and maybe like failures and shortcomings within their own life. But I think a little bit as to why public school is being defunded, because really at the end of the day it's public school. It's not only to make sure that like only the wealthy elite can have the executive positions of authority and like really any position that's like allows social mobility in society, but I also believe, similar to like what was happening during like the Reconstruction era, there's a fear of trying to like indoctrinate, like there's this desire to isolate young white people to make them only think, hey, you are better than all these other marginalized people and they don't like you because you're better than them, and just to like hound them thinking like that, but to not allow them an opportunity to really have the real world experience, to one, realize that shit's not real because other people exist in the real world and they're also struggling and suffering to be human as well. And hey, the school system is going to show you that when there's no like rigged backing or kind of like overarching like magic hand that can just make you win all the time or save you from losing, then you have to realize, oh, other people can be better than me at some shit. And I'm either going to be so insecure that that keeps on happening, or I'm going to hate myself into trying to be better than these other people and then do something outside of my own morality to make myself win, or I'm just going to learn to appreciate diversity, learn to accept the fact, hey, everybody has an opportunity to win. And it's like, we don't have to pinpoint on each other's flaws and make sure that like, well, you know what, if you're better than me, I still got to make sure that at least you hate yourself. Like, no, we can all appreciate everybody's chance at winning, because that means that winning is possible for us because we're in proximity to it. But then on a back end of that, public school, like, and even especially like sports programs, it forces you to have a goal outside of what your identity is, and it forces you to just be whatever role you need to be to get that goal done in that group organization. I think this is a much bigger conversation. It applies into the destruction of third spaces. Karens and gentrification play into that. It plays into the COVID really forcing a lot of young people's attention onto these digital platforms, and then billionaires not only getting mad rich off of that, but also them being the new mainstream media. But the attention that's spent on these digital platforms is infinitely more increased and more influential than traditional mainstream media through the television and through like billboards and shit. So think about the mercy, especially when people are poor and like adults and parents are going to have to work more jobs, take on more jobs because they have to work by the hour instead of working and leveraging other skills to do other opportunities, since more times than not people just funnel to one job that they work, and that's less time to focus on, less time to take care of and truly, beneath all this, protect your kids from any kind of outside influence. You're leaving them to being babysat by these phones, babysat by what else? Social media algorithms that have been proven to be influencing red pill content, proven to be influencing this like misogynistic, racist, all this like nasty, oppressive type of shit, because it helps engagement and it keeps people addicted to these platforms. It's this illusion of freedom of speech, because everybody knows in the real world you can't say that shit, because you might actually have to get for saying that type of shit. And it's going to be, unless you find a cult that's going to protect you, it's going to be real hard to keep doing that type of shit and getting that type of fucking retribution to being a racist or a misogynist. Especially when that is now like stamped on your identity in the world as somebody who expresses yourself like that. On the online spaces, it's so much easier to be racist in a comment or be misogynistic or just be a fucking asshole and to not take any accountability at all. So really just like sit here and think. And then we could also add in that video I made like a day ago talking about the destruction of the arts and then the forced funneling of everybody into the STEM and science majors. Because not only does that stop people from emotional regulating through self-expression, it also stops them from being able to appreciate other people's culture and how other people express their cultures and how they tell this story of human life that we're all living, that allows us to resonate with each other beyond these identities that we cling on to so much for validation in this society. Whatever it is, whether it's marginalized identity or it's a status symbol or it's how much wealth we have. But I'm telling you right now, like, the people who are telling you they're trying to save America, they're coddling these like adult children who had this superhero Captain America dream of what this country is supposed to be like, but they refuse to accept that it's not off their own merit and strength. It's just purely off of like the destruction of any type of like society that's protecting a natural resource that we can't produce or we could leverage to make more money than they're apparently doing themselves. It's like, and again, the reason why I say this conversation is huge is because it's like wealthy people are orchestrating this whole entire thing. Not only the wealth inequality and the fascism part of it, and just like the racism and misogyny, but also the performative activism is also an aspect of it. People that just sit in these like intellectual incubators, the Harvard, the Princetons, the Ivy League kids, they don't go out to the fucking local communities, bro, and see what it's like, what being homeless is like. Maybe when they're trying to get volunteer hours for the college application. But these people aren't connected to these communities. They aren't connected to the consequence of the jobs they will inevitably end up taking on the back end of going to a school like Harvard or a school like Princeton, because they're not going to end up being this fucking revolutionary, visionary world changer on the other end of that. They're going to be another fucking alumni who's going to produce money to give back to the system, bro. And now, especially if you're a less fortunate or a diverse person, look at that. Now we can use you as a fucking token when we're telling the whole entire world, we're not racist. We don't practice eugenics and all these other kind of bastard psychologies. We have blacks. We have... And what's interesting about that is, and I'm not saying that going to college is bad or anything, but I'm saying when you go to like these like top neoliberal institutions, you realize that you pick up, like, you get so deeply rooted into your identity, you almost forget what it's like to be human. Like, so much of you being the only one from your community and being the only one who goes to school there, the only black, the only woman, the only this, like, so much of that, it gets like integrated into like your value and your sense of self-worth. You almost like forget that in a real world of people who care about you, you don't have to fucking prove your identity every second of the day. Like, you're on that path of self-discovery, but they love you and appreciate you for just being you and being here. And the reason why I hate that social media is indoctrinating and educating a majority of us right now, and we never truly properly reintegrated back into the real world and real low-cost third spaces and like public support, are because you don't realize, like, you, especially like you as marginalized people, you don't realize there are people that are so fucking deep in that psychosis on the conservative side. If they were able to, if there was some fucking antidote to treat that, whether it's intelligence, whatever it is, maybe it's like shame healing, maybe it's like a shamanic healing trip or something, like, if they could treat that, this person, even though, like, it's gonna sound crazy me saying this, I know, but like, in this state they're in right now, because they're vulnerable and they're ignorant and they're traumatized as fuck, they're like a racist. But if we could educate this person, they're actually a cool person, and they're funny, and they're down to earth, and they're like lit. But when you make like everything about this guilt-based politics, everything about identity politics, everything about, well, who are you? What are you representing? Politics, social life, blah, blah, blah. Like, we focus so much on like who's right and who's wrong. It's like we forget our humanity is what I'm trying to say. And then we start hating people that we'd probably be more aligned with than people that we're enmeshing ourselves with, because they're, again, performing that they care about our human rights until they get to a point where they actually have to like be martyred for it or like die by it. And then they fucking turn the other cheek and they look back at the people that they were saying are going to take over the world, and they start buddying up and cozying up with them on Martha's fucking Vineyard. This destruction of Department of Education, It's strictly meant to punish poor people. It's to perpetuate racism, because if poors, like, of all races got together, bro, we would create the coolest country on planet Earth, and rich people couldn't own it. We'd share it with each other, and we'd share it with the world, and that shit would go universal, bro. I promise.